There's a phrase carved into time that could change the way you face every single day of your life. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Simple, powerful, ruthlessly true. It's by Marcus Aurelius. Yes, a Roman emperor, but much more than that. A warrior philosopher, a solitary Stoic, a man who ruled one of the largest empires in history, while silently facing the same inner battles that still torment us today. Anxiety, doubt, fear, anger. The difference? He left behind a secret diary, a book never meant to be published, filled with raw, honest reflections on how to face life. It's called Meditations, but it's not some abstract treatise. It's a survival guide for the storm. And what if I told you that within those very pages, written by candlelight on the banks of the Danube, under falling snow and the crushing weight of empire, you can find practical tools to face your challenges in 2025. Have you ever asked yourself what one of the most powerful men in history might teach you? About humility, about discipline, about the art of not losing your mind when everything around you collapses. Imagine being woken at dawn by the news. A province in revolt, your best friend accused of treason, your wife ill, and a war looming like a black cloud on the horizon. Now imagine still sitting down, breathing, and writing with clarity. Don't let yourself be distracted. You have the power not to have an opinion about something. And if you can avoid forming an opinion, you won't be disturbed. This isn't just philosophy. It's mental discipline. It's a strategy for life. And Marcus Aurelius lived it every single day, not as a distant teacher in some school of thought, but as a man fully immersed in the chaos of the real world. This is the journey we'll take today. A journey through the dust of Roman streets, the cold halls of imperial palaces, the military tents at the front lines, but most of all, through the deepest, most fascinating territory of all, the mind of a man who learned to rule himself before ruling the world. I'll show you his story, but also his struggles. I'll bring you into the most intimate lines of his reflections, and more importantly, I'll show you why today, in an era of infinite distractions, identity crises, and chronic anxiety, we need more than ever to listen to what he has to say. But first, if you're fascinated by the human mind, if you're drawn to history not as a list of dates, but as a toolbox for living better, if you feel deep down that philosophy might just be a secret weapon to face the chaos of daily life, then you're in the right place. Consider subscribing to the channel. I promise you journeys that won't just tell stories, they'll transform you. And now, let's begin. Who was Marcus Aurelius, really? Not the cold marble emperor you might have seen in school books or museums. Not a statue on a pedestal. Not just the solemn philosopher writing in the hushed silence of imperial chambers. Marcus was a man, with fears, doubts, dreams, and limitations. A man who, despite holding the power to decide the fate of millions, questioned himself daily about how to be a good human being. Born in Rome in 121 AD, his full name was Marcus Annius Catilius Severus, then Marcus Annius Verus, and eventually Marcus Aurelius Antoninus Augustus. He came from a noble Hispano-Roman family, well established in the Roman elite. He lost his father at a young age and was raised by his mother, Domitia Lucilla, a cultured and strong woman who instilled in him the importance of discipline and learning. It was Emperor Hadrian who noticed him. They called Marcus the Golden Boy for his thoughtful eyes, calm temperament, and attention to detail. Hadrian saw something rare in him, a reflective mind in a young body, and decided to adopt him indirectly, placing him under the care of his successor, Antoninus Pius. And Antoninus treated Marcus like a true son. Marcus was raised not for power, but for responsibility. Not for dominance, but for self-mastery. From a young age, he was drawn to Stoicism, a philosophy that sought not escape, but inner control, not pleasure, but virtue. He devoured Epictetus with a hunger for truth. He searched for answers not just in books but in everyday life. He often slept on a wooden bed to avoid being corrupted by luxury. He wore plain clothes. He already had the heart of an emperor, but he wanted to master himself first. When he ascended to the throne in 161 AD, alongside his adoptive brother Lucius Verus, he didn't inherit a stable empire. The frontiers were burning. The Parthians threatened the east. The Danube was under siege. A plague struck Rome, killing millions. Famines ravaged the cities. Enemies surrounded him, outside the walls and inside the Senate. And yet Marcus didn't seek refuge in power. He didn't use the throne to hide. He took to the road. He slept in soldiers' tents. He led the legions in the field. He wrote at night by the flickering light of oil lamps, exhausted, recording thoughts never meant for anyone but himself. Those words became the Meditations, one of the most intimate and profound texts ever written by a leader. He didn't preach. He didn't philosophize from above. He wrote to remind himself not to be corrupted, not to give in to rage, to be grateful, to keep his mind steady in the storm. Short phrases, sharp as blades, that could have been written today. Happiness depends on yourself. Death smiles at us all. All we can do is smile back. Stop debating what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus didn't seek glory. He didn't want to be remembered as a conqueror. He wanted to be honest with himself, to wake up every morning and stay true to his values, even when the world was falling apart. He wanted to wield power without being seduced by it. And he succeeded. He ruled for nearly 2 decades with justice, balance, and a calm that even unnerved his enemies. When his son Commodus was born, he hoped to pass on that wisdom, but he couldn't replicate what he himself had earned through hard effort, mastery of the soul. Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD in Vienna, far from Rome, still at war. He died as he lived, with dignity, clarity, and awareness. And yet, he remains alive. In his writings, in his thoughts, in the quiet strength of his philosophy. In a world that's hectic, hyper-connected, and confused like ours, this ancient man still speaks to us. He reminds us that no matter our role, emperor or student, CEO or artist, the hardest and most noble task we have is to rule ourselves. And ultimately, that is the highest form of power. Let's now dive into the heart of his philosophy. There are 4 core ideas that define Marcus Aurelius. 4 compasses to guide us when everything feels uncertain. 4 anchors that haven't aged with time. The first, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the pure essence of Stoicism, distilled into a single sentence. How often do we get upset over the weather, traffic, a text that never comes, a rude coworker, or plans that fall apart? Marcus calls us to a silent but powerful revolution. Shift control from the outside to the inside. You can't choose the script of life's events, but you can choose your role. You can be a victim or an author. You can be swept away by the waves, or you can learn how to surf. And this doesn't mean repressing emotions. It means knowing them, moving through them, and then deciding who you want to be, regardless of what's happening around you. In the middle of the Germanic Wars, while the plague was killing thousands, Marcus was writing to himself, "Don't panic. Remember that a trained mind can stay calm even in a hurricane." Second compass. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. In an age without motivational podcasts or self-help books, Marcus was already telling us what modern science confirms. Your thoughts shape your perception, and your perception defines your reality. It's not magic, it's neuroplasticity. If you wake up thinking, "Today's going to suck," your brain will start scanning the world to confirm that narrative. But if instead you ask, "How can I make this tough day meaningful?" your focus shifts. Your energy shifts. Marcus urges us to treat the mind as a sacred space. one that needs daily cleaning. Anger, jealousy, judgment, they're stains. Self-pity, it's fog. Every thought is a seed. If you plant gratitude, you harvest resilience. If you plant complaints, you harvest fatigue. We can't always choose what happens to us, but we can choose the lens through which we see it. Third compass, impermanence. Everything you see will soon alter and disappear. Read like that, it can feel sad. But it's actually the key to freedom. Marcus isn't saying don't love things or people. He's saying love them, knowing they'll end. And because they'll end, love them even more. If we truly knew in every cell that nothing lasts forever, we'd be kinder to those who anger us, more present with those we love, less attached to things we can't keep. His awareness wasn't theoretical. He saw friends, generals, family members die. He stared death in the face, and instead of running, he looked it in the eye. Every day he reminded himself, I could die tomorrow, but instead of becoming gloomy, he became grateful. Because he knew every morning is a gift, every meeting a chance, every breath a privilege. The fourth compass might be the most relevant of all. What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. In a time where individualism is worshipped and competition glorified, Marcus reminds us we're part of something bigger. For him, society wasn't an obstacle, it was an opportunity. You can't be truly happy in an unhappy world. You're not truly free if those around you are in chains. Helping a friend, being a present parent, doing the right thing when no one's watching, these aren't minor gestures. They're acts of philosophy, civilized choices. Marcus didn't talk theory, he lived it. He ruled with fairness even when revenge would have been easier. He forgave even when he had every reason to punish. For him, power wasn't a privilege. It was a moral responsibility. That's why he's still called a philosopher king. One of the rare times in history when wisdom walked hand in hand with power and wasn't crushed by it. These four ideas aren't ancient. They're eternal. They're tools. They're maps. And they ask only one thing from us. Don't just understand them. Apply them. Because philosophy, if you don't live it, is just pretty theory. But if you carry it into your daily choices, it can change you. Marcus Aurelius didn't want to be admired. He wanted us, in our own way, to become emperors of our inner world. So how can we apply these ideas in our everyday lives today? Because reading Marcus Aurelius is just the beginning. Real change happens when his words don't stay on the page, but get under your skin. Start here. Every morning, the moment you open your eyes, before reaching for your phone, before complaining about your broken sleep, ask yourself, what's within my control? The alarm went off at the worst possible moment. Your boss sent a ridiculous email at 6:48 a.m. Your partner woke up on the wrong side of the bed? Marcus would say, breathe. Only react to what's yours. It's a simple phrase, but if you truly carry it inside you, it changes everything. In a world that bombards us with stimuli and fights for our attention, choosing where to place your focus becomes a revolutionary act. Every time you choose how to respond, instead of reacting automatically, you're practicing philosophy, not with words, with life. Then, throughout the day, watch your thoughts like clouds in the sky. Notice them pass, but don't feel obligated to follow every one. Are you thinking, or are your thoughts using you? Marcus warns us, don't let your mind become a parking lot for other people's thoughts. And today, more than ever, between social media, ads, notifications, and toxic comparisons, this warning sounds like an alarm bell. If you don't cultivate your mind, someone else will. Insert micro-meditations into your day, even just 30 seconds, while waiting for your coffee, before a meeting. When you feel the anxiety rising, breathe, notice, feel, return. The present isn't a place to hide, it's the only place where you have power. And then in the evening, before falling into sleep or another episode of binge-watching, take out a notebook. Write, what did you do well today? Where did your ego take the wheel? Where did you manage to stay clear, fair, kind? This isn't a teenage diary. It's a mirror. It's your nightly meditation. It's what Marcus did every evening, often tired, dirty from battle, but still willing to look within. Not to judge himself, but to grow, to become, even by just a millimeter, a more centered version of himself. And if you think this is just some abstract exercise in philosophy, you're wrong. This is mental training. It's soul hygiene. At work, you can't change your boss, but you can change your attitude. You can choose not to feed gossip, not to react impulsively, not to be pulled into drama. You can be that person who brings calm into chaos, who thinks before speaking, who acts from values, not emotions. In relationships, you can listen, not to respond, but to understand. You can practice silence, not as a weapon, but as a space. You can offer presence, the kind of presence that doesn't need words, but says, I'm here, fully. And if you're going through a hard time, if you're in the middle of chaos, pain, confusion, remember what Marcus would say. This too will pass. This too is part of your growth. Suffering isn't your enemy. It's raw material. It's like crude iron in the hands of a blacksmith. Every blow can make you stronger, sharper, more human. No hardship is wasted if you learn how to use it. For Marcus, every trial was a chance to live his principles, and you can do the same. You don't need to be an emperor to live with dignity. You just need to make a choice. Every day. Why is Marcus Aurelius still relevant today? Because he speaks a language we recognize, even if his words are nearly 2,000 years old. It's the language of doubt, of daily struggle, of searching for meaning in a world that often screams without saying anything. In a hyper-connected era, where we receive more notifications than conscious breaths, Marcus teaches us the sacred value of silence. Not the silence of isolation, but the silence of grounding. That moment when, even for just a few minutes, you pause, close your eyes, and ask yourself, who am I becoming? In a society that measures worth through likes, followers, performance, and productivity, he reminds us that true success isn't about being first. It's about staying whole. That the real victory is self-mastery, over your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions. When he writes, don't waste time arguing about what it means to be a good person. Just be one. He throws down a timeless challenge. Stop chasing approval. Stop wondering who you should be. Be, do, practice, live your values even when no one is watching, especially then. He pushes us to simplify, to cut the excess, to return to what really matters. In a world obsessed with doing more, he invites us to be better. And he does it with a force that doesn't need to shout. A calm, deep strength that comes not from imperial power, but from inner experience. Marcus Aurelius wasn't a saint or a perfect enlightened being. He was a man who woke up every day with his shadows, his fears, his grief, and still chose to fight the good fight within himself. And that's exactly what makes him timeless. He didn't try to be a god, but to be a better human, constantly. Even when the plague ravaged the empire, even when his generals betrayed him, even when his son died, a wound that marked him deeply, even when, old and sick, he knew the end was near. He didn't withdraw. He didn't give in to rage. He kept writing, reflecting, seeking clarity in chaos, justice in an unjust world. Not to appear wise, but to live with dignity. And that's what makes him our contemporary. Because today, we too find ourselves in the middle of pandemics, social crises, collective anxiety, burnout, loneliness, disorientation. And in the middle of all this, his words offer not just comfort, but direction. They are both anchor and compass. They remind us that every emotion we feel today, he felt. Every challenge we face today, he faced. And every morning, we too can choose, as he did, to be less reactive, more present, less self-centered, more human. That's why Marcus Aurelius is still here. Not as a marble statue, but as a living voice whispering into our times. It's up to us whether we choose to listen. And so today, if there's one thing we can truly take with us, it's this. The external world will always change. Trends, crises, headlines, people around you, they'll all shift. There will be days when everything feels like it's falling apart, and others when everything seems perfect. But both will pass. The real question is, who do you choose to be in the midst of it all? Because you can be in it without being overwhelmed by it. You can be that steady point, not trying to control the chaos, but choosing how to move through it. You can wake up each day and say, "Today I won't be perfect, but I will be present. Today I won't control everything, but I can choose how to respond." You can be steady as a rock even in the middle of the storm. You can live with discipline, with authentic kindness, with quiet courage. You don't need a crown or a throne. You don't need to be an emperor, but you can become the ruler of your mind. And that is where the real battle is fought. Marcus Aurelius knew this, and he wrote it down not to make polished philosophy, but to remind himself in the hardest moments. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. It's simple, but it's not easy. It's a practice, a training, a path. And today, in a world that so often distracts us from ourselves, it matters more than ever. Remember that. Apply it. Fail. Start again. Grow. Every day. Because there is no wisdom without experience, and no transformation without action. If this journey left you with even one thought, one reflection, one spark, don't keep it to yourself. Turn it into fire. Share it. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment and tell us which thinker, which brilliant soul you'd like to meet in the next episode. Because this is just the beginning. History is full of lighthouses, men and women who walked before us and left behind maps, clues, ideas that can still guide us today. And we are here to follow them, to learn, to grow, to live with more awareness. Until next time. And remember, what matters isn't what you know, but what you choose to do with what you know.